Hey guys, today I figured I'd do another doll makeover. In the past, I've done My Little Pony dolls and LOL dolls, turning them into, questionable creatures. But today I wanted to do a Monster High doll makeover. I think Monster High dolls are supposed to be based off monsters, hence the name. But this one's actually pretty cute and doesn't look like much of a monster to me. I have no idea what she's supposed to be. So I figured it would be cool to turn her into Medusa. I am aware that there's already a Medusa Monster High doll, but this is my take on it. So to start off, I tried making the doll crawl across the screen. Kinda like a stop motion thing. Clearly I don't have a career in that. I wanted it to look like she was pulling herself across the screen. This is a bit embarrassing. It definitely looked cooler in my head. The good thing about Monster High dolls is that they're pretty flexible and they're very posable. They have a lot of joints. In case it's not already obvious, this is a used doll. I bought it secondhand off of Mercari. I've been trying to get stuff that's used and just recycle that whenever possible, which especially worked out with this because Monster High dolls can tend to be a bit expensive. So since she is used, she's obviously not in perfect condition. I'm not sure if she's supposed to be able to stand on her own. Her feet are permanently affixed in this tippy toe position. That's the only way I can think to describe it. Maybe some shoes would have helped. I'm sure she originally came with shoes, but there are some parts missing. That also includes a missing hand, but I can fix that. I tried pulling out her ponytail, which was kind of a success, but not really, because I also managed to pull out a good chunk of hair. Nothing she'll miss too much though, she clearly has a lot of it. Plus I'll be shaving her head later anyways. I then prepared this cute little doll for torture, one of my favorite pastimes. I attempted to decapitate her. I think I was supposed to dunk her head in hot water to soften her head so I could pull it off easier, but I just kinda went for it. It was no match for my muscles. Yeah, can you get me some ice, please? I took out some scissors and chopped off some of her hair. It wasn't the most precise haircut. I just tried getting as much off as possible. I think that's a good look for her for now, but I'll come back to it. You're not done balding yet. If you're new here and you don't want me to give you a haircut,
it wasn't the most precise haircut.
You should consider selling your soul to me by subscribing to my channel and ringing that bell thing so you don't lose me on the internet. I post new videos
every Friday.
Anyways, I then cleaned her face off with acetone using a paper towel. I don't have 100% acetone, so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It took a little convincing. Her face didn't really want to come off, but I made sure it did. I cleaned the more stubborn bits off with a Q-tip. There's still some markings left on her face. It's not a tattoo. It looks more like a burn or a scar. I don't know. I don't really know the backstory for this Monster High doll, or any doll for that matter, but it looks like she's been through some stuff. Even more stuff than my creations have been through.
Please help me. No.
After that, I boiled some water and put it in a measuring cup. This will be for the doll's bath. She likes it warm and toasty. I kinda pushed her head down with a bamboo skewer. It kept wanting to float to the top, and I wasn't gonna let that happen. The torture's a rite of passage. There's no real purpose for the measuring cup. I wasn't really measuring anything. I just didn't have anything else, so I ended up grabbing this. And I wanted it to be clear so you could see through it.
What's the fun if you can't watch?
Once she was done in her bath, I pulled her out. Since her head was a bit softer now, I was able to go in with some pliers and rip the rest of her hair out from her skull. It took an impossibly long time to get all the hair out. I had to keep dunking her head back in the water and ripping more out and then dunking it back in. It was a whole process. I was so invested in shaving her head off. After a while, I was able to get it all off. It was pretty hard getting out the last little bits because you had to aim the pliers just right to grab the little hair follicles. This was pretty painful for all parties involved, mainly for myself because my hands were cramping quite a bit after scalping her. I then went in with some more acetone to wipe off the red color left on her scalp. It was like painted on there. I couldn't get into all the little crevices, so it's not perfect, but I think I got pretty close for a noob, and it's good enough for me since I'm about to build on top of it anyways. In order to sculpt her out, I mixed some epoxy together. Stop. I'm using epoxy because it'll just harden on its own. I won't have to stick the Monster High doll in the oven, which is convenient because melted plastic smells horrible. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. So I started the sculpting process by taking some epoxy and smoothing it over her head. I covered the little hair holes on her head. I'm sure there's a better word, I just can't think of it right now. But yeah, I covered those up because I don't plan on rerooting my own hair into it. I would like to reroot a doll's hair at some point on my adventures, but I don't have doll hair right now, and Medusa doesn't have normal hair. She has snakes for hair, so I'll be sculpting that on later. I also covered her cheekbones with epoxy to hide that indentation thing she had going on. Personally, I kinda liked the indentations, but they don't vibe well with Medusa, so I had to cover them up. I tried cleaning up the edges a little bit and gave her a better hairline. At this point, she looks very sci-fi-esque, beep bop, almost like an android, the robot android. But I'll fix that, or at least I'll try to. Because she was missing an arm when I got her, I decided to be generous and give her a new one out of epoxy. It's not as flexible as the other arm, but that's the best I can do. I really just keep these as sculptures and as cool characters to look at. I don't really play with them or move around their arms or anything, so I'm not too concerned about the flexibility. For her hair, I rolled out a long piece of epoxy and then started cutting out little snakes and then positioning them on her head. I wanted them to look like they were kinda standing up, ready to bite you. Nice voluminous hair. Then I moved on to sculpting her little top. I'm going for a very classic, kinda Greco-Roman looking Medusa. I took a clay tool and tried to make it look like there was cloth wrapped around her. I also added some jewelry to her, little neck rings. I then took a flat piece of epoxy and started molding it around her body for her skirt. She has like a long, flowy skirt. It's supposed to be kinda like a toga mixed with a skirt. Some people make the doll clothes out of actual cloth. I just don't know how to sew, so I decided to sculpt them on instead. The dolls really just serve as a base for a sculpture in most of my doll makeovers. I have a little box of doll accessories just sitting around. There's not too many in my collection right now, but it's been slowly growing. I found a little comb. I think it originally belonged to Princess Luna. May she rest in peace. I'm pretty sure it belonged to her. I thought it would be cool if Medusa was holding it like she's going to comb the snakes in her hair, so I'm making a little hand holding the comb. I took some little snakes of epoxy for the fingers and shaped it around the comb to make it look like she's holding it. I also decided to give her some shoes. I wanted them to look like little wooden sandals. Spoiler alert, she still won't be able to stand up straight after these. It was pretty tough to get her feet to stay flat, and she was just too heavy, so she just wasn't going to be able to do it, but that's fine. I'm going to drill her feet into a base anyway, so she's able to stand up. I attached her hand to her arm using some hot glue, and I just put a little more epoxy around it and let it harden in place just to give it some extra stability. It almost looks like she fell down and broke her wrist. It's looking a little wonky, but that's alright. She almost looks more like she's admiring it. Wow. I guess it's her prized possession now. Then I started painting her body this yellowish green color. I've seen a lot of people use watercolor pencils, even chalk pastels, a lot of different mediums actually. I just happened to use regular acrylic paint this time around. Maybe I'll experiment with other mediums on the doll characters next time. I'm not completely satisfied with the skin color. She looks a bit sickly and kinda like doo-doo. It wasn't really the desired look, but I think it looked slightly better after I built up a couple coats of it. My girlfriend says it looks like a turmeric mask that never completely washed off. I had no idea people were even putting turmeric on their faces. That's interesting. I'll admit, I do have some regrets. Anyways, moving on, I then took a lime green color and started painting her snakes. I was inspired by some designs and color schemes that I saw online. A lot of them go for a very green kind of look with gold jewelry, so that's what I tried to recreate. I also painted her shirt a dark green and her skirt white, and then I went over her sandals with a couple layers of brown, and I did the same thing for her comb to give it a wooden look, trying to really bring out those ancient Greek vibes. I added some spots and freckles here and there just to give her some more detail. I wanted to give her some snake-looking eyes, so I made them yellow and painted black slits on her eyes for pupils. Then I added some little highlights to her eyes to give it a bit more of a glossy look. Not sure if I achieved that though. You really have to look closely to see it. If I were to do another one of these, I would want to figure out how to make it look a bit more expressive somehow. I like making characters that look quirky and expressive. I painted the base a simple black color, and then I kinda went back through and added some eyes to the snakes and stuff. I made them look kinda cartoony. They look a bit derpy. They're not the most intimidating snakes ever, but her freaky looking face makes up for that. Clearly Medusa's eyes are looking a bit scary. After some touch-ups, she was finally done.
Medusa's head fell off. Oops, I dropped it. If this makes you uncomfortable, click on the top right or bottom left.